Atlanta news first. Plus starts now with First Alert Weather.
Hi guys, happy Tuesday. I have been working on a very important story over the last 6 weeks about the National Weather Service and NOAA's budget cuts and the impact that it could have here in Georgia, the impact it's having over the country. I, very much like you, was kind of in the dark about what did this mean? What does this mean for the National Weather Service? What does this mean for safety and for weather in Georgia? So I interviewed 2 of the meteorologists at the National Weather Service in Atlanta branch. David Nadler, who's been there for 10 years, who's still there, and Stephen Nelson, who'd been there for 3 decades, who was one of the meteorologists that took an early retirement because of the budget cuts. And I spoke to them in depth about, what they thought, what was going on. So I have a lot of just stuff to go over here with you guys, and also you guys can comment. Right now I see Josh commented, hopefully there won't be a huge impact. If you guys have questions, because I'm going to run a couple of, a lot of this interview, I'm going to just kind of teach you guys some stuff. If you guys have questions, chat with me, okay? We got almost 40 people watching. So first I'm going to start you out with just an overall kind of explainer of what happened with NOAA and the National Weather Service earlier this year with the budget cuts from DOGE, okay? So check this out.
About 2,200 employees of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, have been fired or took buyouts since January. More than 500 worked with the National Weather Service, which oversees the National Hurricane Center.
We're looking at expecting 13 to 19 named storms, 6 to 10 hurricanes, and 3 to 5 of those becoming major hurricanes.
Mike Brennan is the center's director. Can you guarantee people that those cuts won't affect forecasting?
Yeah, from here at the Hurricane Center, we're fully operational, ready for the hurricane season. Our products and services and warnings are going to go out as they always do.
Brian Lamar took early retirement from the Weather Service's Tampa office. He worries about cutting newer employees.
And that really is cutting off the lifeblood of the agency, because these are the new minds, and those will have cascading impacts on the future.
He's also concerned about the administration's $1.3 billion cut to NOAA's Operation Research and Grants program. The administration says the cuts are necessary because, in its view, the grants radicalize students against markets and spread environmental alarm. But Lamar says the research is crucial.
Because that's where the modeling comes from. That's where advances to radar comes from, and computer technology. So when you sever the research, you sever the future improvement to operations.
CBS News has confirmed that NOAA now is looking to hire back more than 100 employees for some of those open positions. There are concerns about cuts to another federal agency, FEMA. And after Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said this state does not necessarily rely on FEMA, the agency pointed out that last year it distributed in grants more than $1.6 billion to nearly 500,000 Florida families and individuals. Manuel Bajorquez, CBS News, Miami.
So that was kind of an overview of the impact to hurricane season, right? I wanted to know what our impact was here in Georgia, right? So I went down to the National Weather Service, which, by the way, the office in Atlanta, it serves 96 counties. It's one of the largest offices in the country. And I talked to them about, how they were feeling. And I wanted to play for you what I found. Here it is. This is the most important room for weather in the entire state of Georgia.
Because we're here every day. We've studied the patterns and the uniqueness of everything we get in this area.
It's the National Weather Service Atlanta headquarters in Peachtree City.
We serve 96 counties in north and central Georgia, so we have a very large footprint in the state, and probably one of the largest forecast areas in the whole country.
David Nadler and his team of 12 meteorologists work around the clock to help prepare Georgians for all the elements. Since January, the National Weather Service has lost around 500 employees. I asked David how these cuts are affecting his team.
When it first came out that there were quote-unquote cuts in NOAA, everybody immediately thought the Weather Service, because we are probably the most visible agency to the public, but our numbers were relatively small in the cuts compared to some of the other agencies in NOAA.
The Atlanta office has lost 3 meteorologists since the start of the year, but David says they're still fully equipped to keep us safe.
I mean, we're not fully staffed right now, but we really never have been. There's never, not in my experience, a time where we miss an event because we're understaffed. This is our forecast area.
As the warning coordination meteorologist, it's David's job to communicate with local government officials and emergency managers when bad weather is coming.
Here, and it's moving. The decisions that they have to make prior to and during and even after these significant events really come down to the relationships that we build on a day-to-day basis.
According to the National Weather Service website, there are 22 vacant warning coordination meteorologist positions nationwide. This includes the office in Austin, Texas, that oversees the region of the Guadalupe River where the devastating flood occurred early on July 4th. That office confirms it had 3 extra meteorologists working the night of the flood, but Kirk County has faced scrutiny over its lack of preparedness, with some residents saying they had no idea the flood was happening. This comes just weeks after 5 former National Weather Service directors wrote a letter to the American people warning them that the staffing shortages could hinder their ability to provide timely and accurate warnings. One of the meteorologists that left the Atlanta office is Stephen Nelson, who had been there for 31 years.
There were a few hundred that left from the Weather Service, all in that April 30th time frame.
He took a voluntary retirement at the end of April when budget cuts led the National Weather Service to reduce its staff by 10%.
You had about 5 weeks to decide and apply within that time frame. It wasn't much time.
Stephen said it's imperative that all National Weather Service offices are fully staffed 24/7.
I mean, I think there was a chronic understaffing before this was going on in January. I think, it was sort of an approach to reduce agencies across the board, assuming they were fully staffed perhaps, but that wasn't the case in the Weather Service. We were already going through some challenges that meant offices weren't fully staffed. I feel like, yes, those positions need to be filled.
So let's talk about those positions, okay? Over 500 meteorologists the National Weather Service left. A lot of them were called probationary employees, or employees that were young or just started, right? Or part-time employees. But when you look at the list, guys, a lot of the meteorologists that left were also high-level employees. They were managers that were only a few years away from retirement, so they took these retirement buyouts, right? So there's a lot of leadership and big positions that need to be filled. I have a list right here, which is on the article that we have on our website. You can get access to this. It is public information, so I'm going to show you what I see here. Okay, these are all, I'm going to take this off. This is the entire National Weather Service, all of the leading roles. So the WCM that you see, let's see, right here, that's the warning coordination meteorologist. Then you have the science officer, and then the meteorologist in charge. So all these names are really high up, important positions in all of the markets across. Look at all the vacancies. This is for the eastern region, okay? And then you have the southern region, Austin, San Antonio, okay, the one that was responsible for the Kirk County. They're missing their warning coordination meteorologist and their science officer. There's just vacancies throughout. Here's the central region. You see a lot of the vacancies in the central region of the meteorologist in charge. The western region, a lot of vacancies across the board. And then there's even some vacancies in like the Storm Prediction Center. So this is regular, public information. All in all, over 67 leadership meteorology positions across the country are vacant. Now, a lot of what people have said to me and what I hear and what is true is that when these smaller offices across the country that lost more than half of their staff are really down people, when there's severe weather coming to those areas, then the National Weather Service has the ability to dispatch meteorologists from all over the country to go into those areas to make sure that they're covered. David talked a little bit about this. I want to play this. It's pretty interesting the way that it's done to make sure that there's meteorologists there when the bad weather's coming through. Watch this.
our southern region is based out of Fort Worth. If an office is down, like significant numbers, and they know that there's big weather coming in, they TDY folks, they will send a pool of meteorologists from all across the country to help. And so to prevent that, potential burnout or fatigue or whatever you want to call it.
So that's great because the National Weather Service has the ability to make sure that during severe weather events all across the country, they're fully staffed. But the warning coordination meteorologist, which is what David is, it's a very important position because that position is responsible for creating relationships with government officials, emergency officials like FEMA, like our governor, like the school board, like Atlanta Public School Systems, so that they can warn these high up officials when the weather is going to get bad, so that then those high up officials can make the proper adjustments, whether to ice roads when snow is coming, whether to close schools when there is going to be severe weather. That warning coordination meteorologist position is responsible for that relationship, and there's again 44 of those warning coordination vacancies across the country. So even though these places will be fully staffed during severe weather, there's a lack or a loss of communication in some of these markets, these places that don't have the warning coordination meteorologist. And I think that's kind of what we saw somewhat play out in Texas, because a lot of the emergency officials weren't warned about what was coming until 3, 4, 5 in the morning after the flash flood warning had gone out. So I thought that was a very interesting piece of the story. I want to show you guys again. These are all the markets that are missing a warning coordination meteorologist, and a few that stuck out to me: Wilmington, North Carolina, Jacksonville, Florida, and Houston, Texas, all of which are pretty significantly prone to hurricanes. All are missing a warning coordination meteorologist. Now, we did get word, of course, that the National Weather Service has gotten the permission to hire back 125 of those 500 meteorologists to help fill those vacancies as we approach the peak of hurricane season, right? So I asked Stephen, who is part of the National Weather Service for 30 years, I asked him what he thought about that. Did he think that was enough to fill those vacancies? Here's what he said. The National Weather Service has lost over 500 employees, but they're going to hire 125 back, hopefully to go into these critical places for hurricane centers, some of the understaffed. Do you think that that's enough?
I mean, if you're asking me personally, no. I mean, I think there was a chronic understaffing before this was going on in January. I think, it was sort of an approach to reduce agencies across the board, assuming they were fully staffed perhaps, but that wasn't the case in the Weather Service. We were already going through some challenges that meant offices weren't fully staffed. I feel like, yes, those positions need to be filled. It's not just a matter of can the job be done, just the basics. Yes, the job can be done with just, while you're down forecasters, with just a bare level of staffing. It can get done. There's just those two things. One is the extreme events that are unexpected, like we talked about. The other is just the wear and tear. The forecasters themselves are human, right? So they have families, they have lives at home. They have a work schedule that's unique, where they rotate shifts basically every week, and that's assuming there's no one, who's sick or there's vacant positions. You add multiple vacant positions, they have to kind of juggle things around to make it work.
So the gist of what I got from my interview with David and Stephen is that they feel like the National Weather Service Atlanta is a big enough office and has a large enough staff that they are fine as of right now. It's the smaller offices that have these vacancies at high-level positions that are going to lose some of the communication and some of their ability to forecast. Now, during severe weather events, when the event is actually happening, the National Weather Service will make sure that the offices that are going through that severe weather are fully staffed. But that's not the only time when you need to be prepared for the weather. It's leading up to and then thereafter. You have to have the communication, and that's where we're going to see significant losses. So in addition to that the budget for next year, the 2026 proposed budget, it slashes NOAA by its funding by an additional 30%, guys. So that's going to possibly mean a significant loss in research, a significant loss in satellite data that we use for hurricanes, and potentially more staffing reductions. So although the National Weather Service in Atlanta is okay right now, this could be a very different conversation next year. And I want to remind you guys that the National Weather Service costs each taxpayer in America $4 a year. That's it. It's $4. I might be a little biased because I'm a meteorologist, but I think it is a crucial public safety hazard to not have a fully staffed National Weather Service. You guys have seen how much incredible flooding has been going on across the country. Weather impacts all of us, and we cannot change it, and we can't control it. So we need to be able to communicate about it, and we need to be able to forecast it. And that's what the National Weather Service does. So I don't see any questions here. I am going to continue to do these pieces because I think that they are very important. But I do think that we are going to see some losses, not only in the staffing at the National Weather Service level, but in the model data that we get, in the accuracy that we get, because we're losing a lot of funding, even for the the balloons that go up into the air that measure all of the things across the country, the dew point temperature, the wind. We're losing some of those balloons, so we're losing some of that data, which means the models aren't going to be as accurate, which I think we kind of have already started to see a little bit this summer. And we will see what happens with hurricane season. We lost a lot of the satellite data that we need that is getting shut off in the next few days. In my opinion, I think it is an agency that is crucial for public safety. And with a warming climate, we can argue all day about what's causing it to warm. But the reality is the air's getting warmer, which means it can hold more moisture. Which means we're going to see more significant floods and more severe events as time goes on. We're going to see hotter temperatures, more droughts, more fires, and I think it's really important that we have a way to warn you guys about those. And the National Weather Service, every forecast that I make, every forecast you get on the app on your phone, they all come from data provided by the National Weather Service. So it's a fundamental agency. So I hope you guys learned something here. If you do have questions, I don't see that anyone has questions for me, but I do think this is a really important story. It is on our website. You can go to our website and read more about it. I will continue to do these stories over the coming weeks and months as it develops. But if there's something that you want to do, you can talk to your local government. Write a letter. Tell them how important you feel the National Weather Service is to your safety. Okay? All right, guys. I will see you bright and early tomorrow on Atlanta News First at 6 a.m.
Stay up to date on your latest weather from the largest team of meteorologists in the Southeast. Download the First Alert Weather app for hour-by-hour forecasts and join us every weekday at 11:30 a.m. on ANF+.